Hey everyone, the Leo full moon is coming up this Wednesday. Stay tuned to learn all about it. The Leo full moon is this Wednesday, February the 12th. If you are in the United States, it'll be completely full at 5:55 a.m. on the West Coast and 8:55 a.m. on the East Coast. If you're in Rome, Italy, where I'm broadcasting from, it'll be at 2:55 p.m. in the afternoon. The Leo full moon will take place at 24 degrees of Leo. Some of the keywords that go with Leo are creativity, being magnetic, noble, confident, passionate, and has that internal fire that's constantly creating. That's very Leo. It is a fixed fire sign. This is the only fire sign that's fixed, which gives it a more stubborn quality. Leos are known to be steady and strong and constant and solid. Some of the challenges that come with Leo, as with every sign in the zodiac, is that an imbalanced Leo can find that their confidence goes into arrogance. There can be some controlling that happens on the shadow side of Leo. There can be that self-centeredness of taking too much of the spotlight, as they say. There can be a domineering type of quality to the challenging side of Leo. The psychological need of Leo is to have creative expression, to be recognized and appreciated by others, and to really be able to express themselves. This is a sign all about self-expression and individuality. The archetypes for Leo are the king, the father, the nobleman or the noblewoman, performer, entertainer, and leader. Now, when we talk about a full moon, we always want to look at the sun because a full moon is illuminated by the sun. The sun is traveling through Aquarius, and Aquarius and Leo are signs that are always opposite of each other. So we want to look at the sun in Aquarius to better understand the full moon in Leo. Some of the key words associated with Aquarius are unique, non-conforming. They walk to the beat of their own drum. Aquarius are known to be motivated by a cause, to be inventive, original, and independent. Aquarius is also a fixed sign. It's a fixed air sign. Both Leo and Aquarius have that fixed quality, so there is a stubborn nature to this full moon. Aquarius moves at a steady pace. It is adverse to change, which is funny because it is the sign that's associated with change and innovation. It's just that Aquarius likes to be the change bringer, not so much to have it impose on them. They kind of want to go to the beat of their own drum, right? They like to lead the way in progressive change. As with all signs, Aquarius also has its challenging or shadow side. Aquarius can become stuck on its ideals, and this can lead to that rebellious nature that we associate often with Aquarius. There is inflexibility that is associated with the sign of Aquarius. The psychological need of this sign is to be innovative, to be original, and to create social change. The archetypes of Aquarius are the visionary, the rebel, and the humanitarian. So back to the Leo full moon, let's look at some of that symbolism in relation to the lion. The symbol of Leo is the lion. Leo as a sign has many things in common with the lion. There's that commanding presence, that regal energy and the magnetism that we also think about when we look at the lion. There's a creative force. The lion moves with intention, does its own thing. It creates its own environment. It's the king of the jungle. Leo has this creative process that turns form into passion with flair. It does its own thing. It goes its own way. It walks to its own path. It creates its own kingdom, right? Leo is the king or the queen in its own kingdom. The lion and the Leo are both dazzling and dynamic. There's this grace and splendor, and the word magnetism keeps coming up. When we see a lion, it's like, wow, look at that. It's amazing to look at them. We can say the same thing for Leos. And then that warmth, the lion is fierce, yes, but it likes to bask in the sun. And when we think about Leo and how it's very protective of its children, and there's that warm quality of the nurturing that comes from the parenting of the children. Lions are bold and Leos are bold, bold in expression, bold in the way that they look whenever you see them. So the next time you see a lion, think about the beauty that comes out of that lion and also out of the sign of Leo. Going back to this Aquarius-Leo axis, this full moon is going to bring up the two sides, the Leo and the Aquarius side. So you have Leo, which is about self-expression, personal pride, individuality, and getting recognition for their individual and unique qualities. Then you have Aquarius on the other side, and it's focused on the collective. It's focused on solving some of those social issues, bringing new things, inventing, innovating, doing original work, but always with an eye on the collective, always with an eye on how this works for the group. So you can see how these two contrasting sides of the same axis are coming into focus as we go into the full moon. You have Leo focused on self, you have Aquarius focused on the group. And an opposition, which is the full moon, the sun across from the moon, is always bringing up these two sides. Maybe there's choices that have to be made, or maybe there's accommodations that have to be made to fit both sides. So think about that as we go into the full moon. Let's get into the vibe. I always like to look at the vibe first before breaking down the chart into the different aspects that are happening. So this is a collection of all the different energies that are going to be at play as we move into the full moon. We've already talked a bit about this, the balancing of self with community. This is a big theme of the Leo full moon. This confidence that comes into play. Leo is about confidence, being confident in yourself, being confident in your expression. So at the full moon, there's this vibe of recognizing where you fit into the bigger picture, how you take the spotlight. Why are you getting the spotlight? What is it that you want to have the spotlight on you for? That's the Leo side, that personal expression. And of course, there's the creative versus the collective. So then how do you fit into the bigger picture? How do you balance that where you're getting enough of your own self-expression and you're keeping in mind where you're not going too far, where you're considering also the bigger picture, the collective, others, other people in the social circle that you're in? How do you fit in there? How do you get as much spotlight as you want and deserve without standing in somebody else's light, without hogging the spotlight, taking too much of the spotlight? Power dynamics are going to be taking place. They already are, because this aspect that I'm referring to with power dynamics has already happened, and it's going to be a theme of this month and next month. So there can be alliances that are being made, whether it's on the political scene, the world scene, or it's in your life. You may have people coming into your life, or maybe people that have already been in your life, but you form some sort of alliance, you have some sort of relationship, and there's a power dynamic involved. This may shift things. There may be changes that come because of these alliances that are being made. So do watch for who you are aligning with during this time period of February and March. And I'm definitely going to talk more about that in this video. We also have unpredictability in the air. I probably don't need to tell you that. There's a lot of change happening. Just be aware that more disruptions could happen. Things that you thought were stable may be destabilized. There can be unexpected news. There can be disrupted messages coming through. There can be breakthroughs. It doesn't all have to be negative. Unexpected change may not always be negative. It may not be desired in the beginning, because a lot of times we don't like big change. We want to know what's coming. We want to know that what we expect to happen is actually going to happen. There's a lot in flux right now. So this can cause some tension with you, or with organizations, or with politics. This is going to continue to happen as we go into the full moon. It's probably going to continue after as well, because some of these energies, they don't move quickly. Some do, some don't. The full moon, that moves quickly. The moon will be full and then it will keep on going. But some of these other vibes that I'm talking about are related to planets that move very slowly. So not everything has the same pace. Okay, coming back to Leo, there's this vibe of having the courage to stand out, having the courage and the confidence to stand out and say, look at me. This is what I am. This is what I've created. This is my unique expression out in the world. And we also have energy that can prompt more risk taking, to prompt more stepping out of your comfort zone and going beyond whatever limits you had before. So that's exciting, actually. We still have Mars retrograde. So there's that, there's stepping out and being free to express yourself. And at the same time, Mars is retrograde. So there may be more of a slowdown in energy, or maybe you need more rest in order to get that out. This is a time period where we can all make slow but steady progress and take deliberate action. For those of you who like to kind of speed through, you want to get things done, you want to be boom, 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 you like things to go fairly quickly, you could be pretty frustrated. That's not really the pace right now. Even if there's that energy to really go beyond and step out of boundaries, you still have to do it a bit slower than maybe you would like in order to really work well with the vibe. So you want to take your pace more slow, but don't let that stop you from going outside of your limits to really challenge yourself. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is this lingering uncertainty. We do have something happening energetically that is going to take a little bit of time for it to clear up. The path forward right now is not clear. Sometimes we just have to be okay with that. Sometimes we have to sit with this change that's going on and move through it, because clarity isn't going to come right away. That doesn't mean sit on your laurels and do nothing about it. It just means that while you are doing or expressing yourself, let's use Leo words, that you may not see exactly how all of this is going to work out right away. It may take a little bit of time. Be patient. So what do you do with all this energy? I have 3 ideas, 3 activities that you can do to work with this energy. The first one is own your spotlight. Embrace that Leo energy. Express yourself boldly. Go do something out in the world, or let something out in the world. And when I say the world, it's as big or as small as you want it to be. You can be your world. It can be letting something out with your group of friends, or it can be out in the world, publish something, write a blog, write a social media post, create a webinar, whatever it is, record a video, create artwork. There's so many things that you could do, and it really depends on what is inside of you that you're creating and that you want to let out. In that process, you are owning your spotlight. You are saying, this is mine. I'm putting it out in the world, and I invite that spotlight to come on me. The next thing is journaling, because I always suggest journaling. I think it's one of the most therapeutic things that we can do for ourselves. And in this month's journal for the full moon or your full moon ritual, I suggest that you write about power. What is power like in your life? How are you owning your power? Or do you give away your power? Or do you feel powerful? And is it balanced? Or is it that maybe you like to overpower people, or maybe you feel like people have power over you? So think about how this is working out in your life and write about it. Write about how you are using your power effectively. Also include any alliances or kind of shifts in your social group of friends. Is that changing? Is it the same? Does it need to change? These are things to journal about under the full moon. The third thing relates to this change that is happening all around us. It may be time for you to make change also in your life, to break a routine, break a habit, do something differently, especially if you feel stagnant somewhere. Like if there's somewhere in your life and you're like, this is just not going where I want it to go, or it's just there and nothing is changing, but I really want change to come. This is the time to do that. Shake up your usual patterns. Try something different. Try something original, inventive, innovative. I'm using Aquarius words here. Switch up your daily rituals. Take a different approach to a problem. Bring something new into your work. So that is the third suggestion that I have for how to work with the Leo full moon energy. Okay, now we're going to look at the chart. We're going to actually look at the aspects in the chart, remembering that there's no houses here because it's going to depend on where you live. And then if you want to look at the full moon chart in relation to your personal chart, then the house placements will depend on your chart and your location, of course. So full moon across from the sun, that is a full moon. The sun has to be across from the moon in order for it to have its full light. There's this push and pull between the collective ideals and personal expression. Mercury is right there with the sun. You can see it in the chart. Mercury is moving away from the sun. It's already on the other side. Mercury moves faster than the sun, so it's moving away from the sun, but it's pretty close there. You see 26 degrees, the sun is at 24 degrees. So this is a conjunction between Mercury and the sun, and it's an opposition with the moon. That means that the thoughts which go with Mercury and emotions which go with the moon are in opposition. So it can be perhaps more difficult to communicate your feelings, or maybe you communicate strongly your feelings, but either way, there's this push and pull or having to find the balance between the two. The sun with Mercury can sharpen the intellectual focus, which is quite nice, and the moon across the way can bring in some emotionally charged type of energy. And there can even be an inner conflict within yourself between logic and intuition. Logic goes with Mercury, intuition goes with the moon. The sun and Mercury across from the moon are making a relationship with the planet Uranus in what we call a T-square. This is a tension-oriented type of energy. It can really shake up the status quo. Shake up is a Uranus word, and try to break up some of the old routines that are no longer working. Now, Uranus is in Taurus, which is also a fixed sign. So we have a fixed T-square. And when we see these fixed types of aspects, in this case, the T-square, which is an opposition and a square between both sides of the opposition, it's about breaking things up. You could say it's also about trying to hold on tightly and keep things the same. Fixed energy doesn't necessarily want to change, but Uranus changes things. Uranus is all about disrupting the status quo. So there's a lot of creative energy here that comes into breaking things up. There's this challenge to rigid thinking. There's tension between logic and creativity. That's looking at logic with Aquarius, where the Sun and Mercury are, across from the moon in Leo, the creativity. And it's a full moon. So a full moon, generally speaking, amplifies the energy. There can be sudden mood shifts. There can be this desire to let your light out. The mood shifts. It's like, yes, I do want to express myself. Yes, I do want to invite that spotlight in. Also, there can be some sort of breaking up of rigid old beliefs. Maybe you have always believed that you don't deserve the spotlight or that you're not good enough for the spotlight. So this can be a really good time to break up that thinking, to recognize that it's holding you back and that you want to make this change and actually embrace your creativity, who you are. Let your light shine. And this is my quote that I'm using for this Leo full moon. Like a shaken snow globe, things are in motion and it will take time to see where they settle. At Christmas time, I had a snow globe that I was shaking. And as I was thinking about this snow globe, I'm kind of like what we're dealing with right now. Everything's shaken up and floating around, and it takes time for all that to land back down and settle down. If you like that analogy, you can use it. You can tell your friends. The world is like a snow globe right now. It's all shaken up. It doesn't have to be the world. It can be your life. You may feel like your life is a shaken snow globe and you're waiting for things to settle down. It will take some time. Things always do settle down and things always get reshaken up again. That is life. We live in a world where everything is cycles and cycles go round and round. Venus is sextile Pluto. And this is important because it's not going to happen just this one time. It's going to happen 3 times because Venus is going to go retrograde. So Venus actually already had the first sextile with Pluto. You can see Venus there at 5 degrees of Aries, and you can see Pluto there at 2 degrees. And what I think is happening, or what can happen to you, what's happening in the world, is that powerful alliances can be made. A sextile is harmonious and active energy. So these powerful alliances are being made. Powerful is a word associated with Pluto. Alliances is a word that is associated with Venus. The thing is, Pluto's in that fixed sign and it's going to be there for more than 20 years before it changes. Venus is going to be there a while because it's going to retrograde and make this contact 3 times instead of the usual 1 time and move on. However, the Venus contact with Pluto is still short term when we consider how long Pluto will be in Aquarius. So we'll have this Venus-Pluto aspect active for a few months. And during this time, powerful alliances will be made, are being made. We're seeing these alliances on the world stage. You can apply this energy also to your personal life. So really be aware if certain alliances are being made, certain partnerships are being made, because it may not be so easy to get out of them in the long run. So keep that in mind before you sign a contract, before you get so involved in an alliance that it's really hard to get yourself out of it. Venus will go retrograde in March. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but that is why there will be the 3 contacts. And so what you want to watch out for is how is the power balance in these alliances being negotiated and tested, and they will probably be recalibrated as we go through this time period where Venus and Pluto are making these contacts. Mars continues to be retrograde, and at the full moon, it's trine Saturn. This does slow down action, but it really sets the stage to make good, steady progress. But it's probably going to be more behind the scenes with this Mars retrograde. It is a really nice aspect to have if you want to make steady progress. You will want to use discipline, and you'll want to keep in mind long-term planning around whatever you're trying to make progress on. This isn't a time to rush through things or try to make things happen quickly. It's a time to slow down, have a steady pace, and use discipline. This energy is also really good for doing your strategic planning, thinking about the long term. We're still at the beginning of the year. Maybe you're still working on your annual goals. This could be a good time to do that. And like at the new moon, we still have the North Node traveling with Neptune. They're still pretty close. You can see Neptune's at 28 degrees. The North Node is at 27 degrees. That can indicate that when we're thinking about destiny and what we're supposed to be doing, both in our lives and then from the world stage, that things may not be what they seem to be. The narratives that are coming out, the messaging that's coming out could be overly idealistic, not necessarily realistic. I suggest you continue to keep fact checking. I talked a lot about that at the new moon. We had a new moon in Aquarius a few weeks ago. This continues. It's a good idea no matter what, but with the current cosmic patterns, I'd say make sure you're fact checking, that you're not getting your news from social media and running with it as if it's fact, because the path forward is still unclear. The world is in flux and the future feels elusive. At least it does to me. I don't want to tell you how to think. These are qualities that can be happening due to this conjunction between Neptune and the North Node. So clarity will come in time, but perhaps clarity will come in hindsight when it's too late. We don't really know, but pay attention to what's going on. It's really important that we don't stick our head in the sand and just try to ignore what's going on in our life or out in the world. It'll be much more helpful if you stay in touch, keep checking those facts. So there will be a few sign changes coming up, and we have on the 14th, Mercury is going to go into Pisces. So we'll have maybe more imagination and conversations can become more deep or spiritual. We will have the sun moving into Pisces on February the 18th. Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac, so we are preparing for this new cycle that's going to happen when the sun moves into Aries next month. And then we have the new moon in Pisces coming at the end of the month on the 27th or the 28th, depending on where you live. Mars continues to be out of bounds. That's where that going outside of your limits comes into play. And it's also still retrograde, which is quite interesting. So you have this Mars who wants to do whatever it wants. It's out of bounds. It's unhinged. It can be rebellious. It can even be unpredictable, but also it's retrograde. So it's slowing down Mars. Mars is about how we take action, and it's retrograde. So this is a time period for reassessing how you take action, how you do things, how you pursue goals, and how you handle conflict. It is retrograde in Cancer, so that brings up themes of security and self-preservation. The way that you take action now, or the way that Mars is behaving in the world right now, retrograde, can be more defensive. It's more about protecting itself and defending what it values, which is usually home and family and children. Be aware that this energy can cause overreactions. You can become exhausted more easily. There can be more passive aggression happening. It can be you, it can be others. You can experience it at the grocery stores. It's just energy that is out in the world. Here are the dates, just as a reminder. Mars is going to go direct. Finally, it's been retrograde since December the 6th. On February the 24th, it will go direct. It will take some time for Mars to get back up to speed, and that will be in early May when Mars gets back to the degree and sign where it originally went retrograde. So it's almost over. Hang in there, folks. We're getting there. There are 2 retrogrades coming up in March that I want you to be aware of. One is Venus. Venus goes retrograde about every year and a half. It will go retrograde starting on March 1st. So as soon as we get into March, Venus goes retrograde. Mars goes direct. Venus goes retrograde. Venus is going to retrograde in the sign of Aries, and it will retrograde back to the sign of Pisces. The retrograde will last until April the 12th. So I'll be talking about this in each video coming up until the whole cycle is finished. We also have Mercury going retrograde. Now that happens far more often, as I'm sure you're aware. Mercury retrogrades usually 3 times a year, and Mercury is also going to go retrograde in Aries and go back to Pisces. So this is going to be really interesting to have both Venus and Mercury retrograde for the most part the same time period in the same signs. So stay tuned. If you want to jump ahead and look at your chart and figure out how this might show up for you, definitely look at the Aries and the Pisces houses in your chart, and then look at the meaning of those houses, and you'll get a whole lot more information about how this will probably show up for you. And don't worry, I have a slide coming up on the houses so you can see the meaning of each astrological house. So in your chart, if you want to get an idea where all of the planets are traveling, this gives that to you by sign and what's in the sign. This is the chart for the full moon. And as promised, here's the slide on the astrology houses. Now, this is a quote for you. You can use it as a mantra if you'd like for the full moon. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. That's from the brilliant Brene Brown. And of course, there's that beautiful lion with its cubs right there to help inspire you for this Leo full moon. I will be back with a new moon video for you. The Pisces new moon will be here on the 27th or 28th of February at 9 degrees. If you'd like to book a consultation with me, you can use the QR code or visit LoriBarnesAstrology.com. I do astro mapping and astrology-based business coaching. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Ciao.